we kick it off with like the Somalia stuff? Like that stuff is out of control. Like if you're not an X, you don't know about this. There's actually I watched the All In podcast. Where they kind of summarized it pretty succinctly. So there's been people investigating fraud in Minneapolis for a long time regarding the Somali community, and that the accusations is that, and some of these have been convictions. They found like daycares that are fake and are billing the government for daycare and collecting government money
Yeah.
to
Subsidies.
subsidies to do a daycare that's not really a daycare, not operating daycare, not taking care of anybody. And so the local news has been doing this for like a long time. And then this guy, this like kid, Nick Shirley, created this video where he went and investigated a bunch of these with some other guy in the video. Have you seen this guy Dave with the video? And then they uncovered a bunch of them where like same kind of thing. Like they just don't look like great daycares. And all they did was like ask if they could have their kid in a daycare, or if they could like. That was kind of funny. Like the investigative journalism. Like he didn't really dive into the accounting or anything. He just basically was like, "Is this a legitimate daycare or not?" Which is like quite fascinating because like anybody could have just showed up and like asked these questions. Like this isn't some like deep forensic accounting piece. I thought that part. I think it's why people are so like are so surprised by all of this, because like the most basic kind of analysis.
It wasn't even like correct.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Wall Street fraud. It wasn't like white collar fraud. It was legitimately just empty daycares. Like right.
Well, they weren't even. So, it doesn't even look like there was any attempt to cover it up, to like pretend that they were operating as daycares, right? Like
correct.
They don't look like any daycare anybody would want to send their kid to.
The kids, yeah.
They're not operational. Like you can't just walk in and like apply and have your kid go there, right? Yeah. Like which is what a normal daycare would do, right? They're not even pretending to be like a real business.
So I had an interesting conversation about this with a friend. He raised kind of like a good point, which is there's two sides to this story, right? One is kind of like the focus on the community, specifically the Somali community. And the second thing is there's a wider topic of fraud in general in society. So the point that he was trying to make was that fraud is everywhere. So he owns a company that actually solves fraud in the medical insurance.
Your friend does.
Industry.
Okay.
Correct. So he kind of like pulled me aside. He just said, "Look, there's two layers of the story."
So sorry.
No, that's cool. So the real question here is like, is this kind of like the normal situation now in America where fraud is just everywhere, and this story just came out because of the community aspect to it aspect? So people are paying attention. Not because of the fraud piece, because of the community piece.
I think the explanation is quite simple. I think that like fraud went to the moon during COVID. Right. And I think like things like the PPP loans, like they just gave them out to people. Like how would you even? We started to blur the lines of like what was fraud and what wasn't. I think COVID. I don't think there's anyone out there who disagrees with me. Like COVID was terrible in every regard.
Right. For sure.
And then the way that we handled it was just unbelievable, right? Like ran up the debt and the interest rates and the just the mismanagement. Like I cannot believe, I still can't believe that it was handled the way that it was handled. And so I think with like things like PPP loans, are there fraudulent ones? Because like I was saying like the requirements of like what was required to get them like wasn't clear. So you could say that like
clear.
every loan was legitimate, therefore it's all fraud, right? Like we changed the dynamics of how these things work in a way that was like very unhealthy, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it
Yeah.
made it easy to commit other types of fraud because like they weren't being investigated, there was like restrictions, all kinds of stuff. And I think it has been cleaned up since COVID. And I think that that's what happened. And the scale of the fraud is really large. And so there's a lot of people who are benefiting from it and like they don't want it to be uncovered. So there's like a lot of incentives for the fraud to continue. I hope it's not the case that we just continue to experience enormous amounts of fraud in the United States.